Wake up! Wake up! Tyranny is coming! Tyranny is coming! Wake up! You're back. You're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison on the Star, 99.5 Radio Free Florida. If you'd like to be on the show with us, 352-372-3700. Lee, I see you're on the line. I'm going to ask you to either hold or... No, Lee's gone. Goodbye, Lee. We're having also a little bit of an interesting experience. We're being joined by Winston Fiore, and he has brought Lorene from TV20 with him. So this is unusual. You have a radio show being filmed by a TV station. Rare in the annals of mass communications. Anyway, Winston, welcome to the Thomas Hayes Morrison Show.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Why don't we start? I have said, I'm going to say it again, that I feel strongly that we should help people who cannot help themselves. But I think having the government take over charity, therefore the politicians and the bureaucrats decide who is worthy and who is not, is absolutely the wrong way for our society to go. If you have something that you're committed to and you think it's a good idea, whether it's Winston's project, which he's going to tell us about at some length, or it's housing, or it's food, or it's lunches during the summertime, or it's cats and dogs, great. Go to University Avenue. For those of you people outside our broadcast area, that's the main drag through the university. No kidding, right? University Avenue. Stand out there with a hat or a basket and ask people to join you in your cause. And if people give you money and join, then you know you're right on. If they don't, you're the only one in the world that cares. Then you're the only one in the world that cares, and do the best you can. So that's background. Winston, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, I was born and raised in Bloomington, Indiana. Graduated in 2010 and just got back from Afghanistan with 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines, late March. So now I am headed on a 5,000-mile hike through Southeast Asia to raise money for the International Children's Surgical Foundation.
Only Marines would never have heard about wheels.
Exactly. Oh, wow. We're going to do this? We're going to do this right now?
I just interrupted his flow. I'm sorry, Winston. It's sorry. I mean,
I heard you say at the beginning of the show you weren't going to make any Marine jokes.
I lied.
Something about an age difference?
I lied, yes.
That was the quote?
That's right. Anyway, it's all those years of Airborne Ranger. And okay, go on, sorry.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
International Children's Surgical Foundation. So it's a charity that provides free facial reconstructive surgeries, most of which are cleft lip and palate repairs in the developing world. So they do, about 15, 20 missions every year in different parts of the world. And so it's a year-long hike to raise money for them. And so what we're doing now is myself and a buddy of mine are riding our motorcycles across the country to kind of get the word out about the trek. So I've been speaking at Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs, giving presentations and raising awareness, and actually a good amount of money so far. So Gainesville is one of my stops.
And let me add, as I will a couple of times here, if you decide that you can throw a couple of bucks to Winston, it is www.smiletrek, SMILETREK.org. Smiletrek with just a K.org.
It's not just a K. It is a huge K.
It is a huge K. Okay.
It's a very important K.
Okay. All right. You want to explain that?
No, I'm not going to get into the K.
Okay. See, I'm a college professor.
This is so much fun.
And I'm thinking cute, and I teach advertising and marketing, and cute names are a killer unless you got a lot of money, right? No, Trek. But then again, nobody can spell anymore anyway in my classes, so they think Trek's probably spelled T-R-E-K. Anyway, you're doing
well, some people think it's T-R-E-C-K.
Yes,
so it's
which is how it is spelled.
This is the first radio interview I've done, by the way.
Might be the last.
Yeah, I know, right? After this. What was that about the letter from the FCC? We can't.
God, why am I like this?
No, but this is nice.
All right, Winston has an interesting background. Let me take a deep breath and calm down here. Every once in a while, somebody comes in that fits with James and myself, and it's very dangerous. But Winston, the first place his Marine Battalion went was Senegal.
That's right. Yeah. So that was actually same regiment, 25th Marine Regiment, but it was 2nd Battalion, 25th Marines. That was in 2007. So we deployed to Senegal, Africa, for just a few weeks as part of our annual training to train alongside the Senegalese commandos. So it was a really cool experience. Certainly my first time in Africa and that part of the world,
right.
And in a developing country, period. And just got to witness all sorts of local customs. And, you can imagine the culture shock that existed. And it made me realize how little of the world I'd seen and how much more of it I wanted to see. And so I decided then and there that I wanted to dedicate a year to traveling a part of the world I hadn't been to. Right. Now, at the same time, I got to witness quite a bit of poverty, which coming from a middle-class American household was not something I was used to seeing. It was quite an eye-opener. Yeah. And so I said, well, if I'm going to spend a year walking, then I could tie in a good cause and something that would help out in the developing world specifically, and here we are today.
Let's take a second and talk about the International Children's Surgical Foundation, which is basically the organization you're supporting with Smile Trek, right?
That's right, yeah.
You want to talk a bit about them? I know they do free surgeries.
Yeah, that's right. And as your listeners may know, there are quite a few cleft charities out there. ICSF.
I didn't know that.
You did not? Yeah. There are some big names out there. ICSF is one of the smaller ones. I chose them because of a couple things they do differently than some of the large organizations. Okay. First of all, they don't spend any money on advertisement or salaries. None of the doctors or surgeons who go on these missions collect any sort of compensation. It's 100% volunteer. Some of these large organizations, in fact, have huge payrolls of office administrators and clerks and that sort of thing, and spend tens of thousands of dollars on advertisement. Right. ICSF does none of that. But one of the big things was their emphasis on post-operative care, to where with cleft surgeries, within that, one of the things that the founder, Dr. Jeff Williams, noticed when he would go on some of these larger missions before he founded his own charity, was that these missions would leave the day after the last surgery, sometimes the same day as the last surgery. And I cannot tell you how detrimental that is for these kids, to where even within that first week after surgery, kids are prone to all sorts of infections that can pop up. Pneumonia is a common side effect of the surgery. And so what ICSF does is they make sure to stay on site at the mission site for an entire week after that last surgery, so that they can address any of these problems if they flare up, and make sure that these kids are taken care of afterwards. Even small things like removing the stitches within that first week is huge. A lot of charities will keep in dissolvable stitches, which sounds pretty cool, but they don't dissolve nearly fast enough, and the scarring is really, really bad, to where even though they don't have a cleft anymore, it looks like they've got railroad tracks that just go down the side of their face. And so, ICSF takes those stitches out and it certainly heals up a lot better. So post-operative care was a big one. And one of the big things as well was they tackle some of the more complicated facial deformities. So most of their work is cleft repair, but they tackle some pretty serious, severe facial deformities that a lot of other missions don't, either because they don't have the training or expertise or the time. One of the things, I spent more than 2 years in Asia decades ago, right after the Civil War, James, right, when you were still in college. One of the things I noticed, though, is that I did see deformities. I was in Korea and in Vietnam, and I traveled around actually a fair amount also. And they were there, and I realized at the time, I didn't particularly notice clefts, but I noticed legs and polio. It would have to look like polio victims. And I realized I didn't see those at home. I didn't see them in the States. And can you talk for a minute about the social impact of being born with a deformity in one of the underdeveloped nations? Absolutely. Well, here in the States, you certainly, it won't be such a common thing to see children with clefts, because it's such a relatively low-cost surgery, to where it's something that's usually taken care of, within that first year or two.
It's fixed.
It's fixed and over with. In the developing world, even though one surgery only costs $240, that amount remains out of reach for sometimes the entire life of a kid, and they continue to live with it their entire adult lives. So as far as social complications, if you can imagine having a cleft your entire life, you're not, they're often kept from attending schools. Yeah. They can't get jobs. They can't raise a family because they're considered undesirable. And just the impact of, a cleft is really affects the most expressive part of the body. And so it's really the first impression that these kids make. And it can be hard enough to make friends as it is without a facial deformity. But you can imagine with a huge gash on your face how difficult it is to lead a normal social life.
We actually had close family friends who one of the children had a cleft that couldn't be repaired until he was older. And we knew him, from my recollection is from 5 to maybe 11 or 12 when they started to work on it, and it was.
They waited that long.
Yeah, and I don't remember the reason. There was a medical reason. And it was interesting. So actually, now that I've been thinking about this a little bit, I understand exactly what you're talking about. Let's also talk about the fact the doctors who do the work. Do they work with local doctors also?
Absolutely. So actually here in a little over a week, once we get down to Miami, I'll actually be flying to Lima, Peru for a week to witness one of these missions firsthand. It's going to be a week that ICSF is dedicating towards fixing facial deformities caused by burns. So they're only working on burn victims. And in this mission particularly, he's pairing up with a local plastic surgeon. And usually that's the way it works. They'll go there with a small team of 5 or 6 doctors, or Dr. Williams will go by himself and partner with a local plastic surgeon or doctor and carry out his work that way.
How many doctors are on staff or involved for a lot of time? On about 6 missions per year, he'll take a small team of 5 or 6 doctors. Generally, he'll go by himself. And so, that's the thing. Numbers-wise, ICSF doesn't tout the same, numbers of surgery per year. But honestly, I'd rather go quality over quantity. Well, what I find really attractive is it's people helping people on a very personal level. Here's Winston Fiore, young what do you call? Young
former Marine. No such thing as an ex-Marine.
I said former. James gave me this note. I said former, didn't I, or say ex?
I've heard both now, to where even former Marine is not, apparently there's no such thing as former Marines. You're just a Marine. So I guess you have to say a Marine no longer on active duty.
Anyway, here's a young man who has served his country well, right, in some rare parts of the world, dangerous parts, and now he's back doing service, and I think that's exactly how it should be. He feels strongly about this, and he's going to do it. All right, so we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with Winston and maybe talk a bit about his personal story here, a little bit more about how you ended up wanting to do this kind of thing, and then tell us about where you're walking, because he's walking some places I walked, but under different circumstances, which I hope, anyway, which I think is great. So you're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison. I have Winston Fiore with me. We're on the Star, 99.5 Radio Free Florida. If you'd like to be on the show, if you have a question for Winston, 352-372-3700. We'll be right back. Wake up! Wake up! Tyranny is coming! Tyranny is coming! Wake up! You're listening to Thomas Hayes Morrison on the Star, 99.5 Radio Free Florida. If you'd like to be on the show, 352-372-3700. We have a very special guest, Winston Fiore, who is a young man doing something he wants to do to help other people that are totally unrelated to him in a very distant part of the world. And we're going to start this part of the show with a call from Lori. Lori, welcome to the Thomas Hayes Morrison Show.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks for taking my call. First, I wanted to say to Winston, thank you so much for your efforts. And
thank you.
The reason that I wanted to call was I wanted to showcase your efforts to the listeners out there. So often, and I think Tom alluded to this earlier in the program, so often everybody assumes that only government can take care of who is truly needy. And that is actually completely untrue. And you are here to prove it. And the fact that you are giving your time and effort to this endeavor shows that just how charitable we Americans are when we're left to our individual freedoms to go into directions that we see fit. And I just wanted to make that commentary because that's what Tea Party's been all about, even though they're calling us terrorists and hobbits and all these things at this point in time.
Wait a minute, that wasn't a question.
I thought Hobbit was pretty cool.
Well, actually, Hobbit was very cool. So was Rand Paul, and he said, I'd rather be a hobbit than a troll. But I think, Winston, that I really so much appreciate your efforts because it does, yet again, exemplify what we stand for as a charitable, giving nation. And you're the example.
Thank you. I can't believe I'm talking to a caller. I can't believe somebody called.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that are out here listening to the show. There's no question about it. Tom's made a huge impact in our area, and we need it. We're very socialistic in this county, in our government, and it's individuals like you that are making the difference. And we so
great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And what I would like to do, too, if you would be so kind, Tom, give him our contact information for the Tea Party so that we can showcase his efforts on our website as well.
Sure, we can link it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Lori, thank you so much for listening and for calling. And Winston seems like a great young man. He's doing great. I should share with everybody, he's a theater major.
Ta-da!
Which I think is terrific if you're going to do something like this, but one wonders. Lori, thanks again for calling. So, Winston, in reading a little bit of your background on your site, I was struck by the how you decided to do this.
Yes. It was, it ended up... I'd spent time in Senegal, which I mentioned earlier, and was determined to do something, to spend a year, trying to help out however I could. And so I got back and started doing some research and seeing, what causes were out there, what type of thing I could help out with. And it wasn't long before my old man sent me a newspaper clipping.
My old man. I got 3 kids his age. I wonder if they call me the old... I finally become the old man.
Yes, you're the old man now. But he ended up, sending me this newspaper clipping from a local paper in Bloomington about ICSF and how it started and the founder story, and it was just really inspiring, and looked into it and appreciated the things that they were doing differently than some of the other organizations, and decided that I would fundraise for them and do the walk in their name.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, why did you decide to walk through Southeast Asia?
So Southeast Asia.
Where are you going?
Okay.
Tell us where you're going.
I will leave for Singapore here late September. So the road trip portion that I'm doing now on the motorcycle will conclude about mid-September. I hope to have my feet on the ground in Singapore by late September, at which point I will head north through Thailand, crossing Laos, Vietnam, Southeast China, and then back south through Taiwan, Philippines, until I return west through Malaysia and return to Singapore, hopefully no more than 11 months later.
I'm trying to dredge the map up in my mind.
It's a big circle.
Yeah. Where are you going when you go through Vietnam? Where are you going through?
I know I enter from the west and exit through the northeast. I know that much. And I'll be going through Hanoi.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than Hanoi, I don't know any of the city names right now.
Those of you who are of some age that might have spent some time there, I've been to Laos, but everybody denied it. We'd see. I have shared with you. I read the New York Times most of my life, and we would get the overseas edition of the New York Times and what have you from time to time, and there would be the president and everybody denying that we were in Laos, and my first sergeant would say, "They're sure not reading the maps the same way we are." I didn't say that on the air. Hit the button. No, anyway. So you're going to go through there, and again, it's an interesting part of the world. And so
I've never been. I don't speak any of the languages, so it's going to be a real, trying to, be a real adventure.
Yeah, actually, I suspect at this point, certainly in the cities, a fair number of people speak English.
That's what I've heard.
It has become the universal language, right? I love the term lingua franca, meaning everybody used to speak French 100 years ago, and now it's lingua ingla or whatever.
That's what they say.
And they'll do it. So why wouldn't you walk through Europe or somewhere where you could raise more money?
Well, Southeast Asia is just one of those regions of the world that have very high birth rates of cleft occurrences.
Why?
So it's a big problem.
Do people know why? What causes it?
It's just more prominent in Asians are just one of those ethnicities in which cleft occurrences are more prominent. There are a couple factors believed to lead to the formation of clefts, environmental factors, genetic factors,
right.
But they can occur as part of a syndrome. But overall, there's no definitive, hardline cause factor that has been outlined yet.
So what do your friends say about this? Can I ask, how old are you?
26.
All right. So,
well, this has been in the pipeline for a while. I mean, again, it's been a work in progress for a couple of years. So they're expecting it at this point. I think they're happy to see me follow through on it. I've been talking about it since 2007. So the fact that it's actually going to happen is refreshing, I'm sure. But
you're not hearing the siren song of University Avenue in Gainesville, Florida. We are reputed to have the most beautiful college co-eds in the whole country. Much of the time they're hanging out in the bars on University Avenue.
Sounds about right.
How are you escaping the trap? Who caught Ulysses? Do you remember, James? Who was it? Cherubotus?
The trap of going out and drinking?
Or whatever.
Because I do that all the time. Yeah.
Hear that, girls?
I enjoy hanging out at the bar and drinking. But it's also
2 minutes. Keep talking. James and I.
We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, James. No, I'm telling him. Actually, I'm telling him. James just told me 5 minutes, and usually I get the 2-minute warning before the music, and then 1 minute. So that's what I was trying to tell him.
Very well. But no, I mean, it's.
Winston's a pro already.
Yeah, I can decipher the sign language. But no, I mean, I still, like to go out and do, I guess, things that a 26-year-old would normally do. But it's just, I don't know. Honestly, I just have that sense of adventure of I can't wait to do this. I have been wanting to do it for years, and it'll be nice to finally experience Southeast Asia and experience it on foot,
right?
And for myself. So. And
the surgeon's name is Dr. Williams.
Yeah, Dr. Jeff Williams. Spelled kind of funky. Geoff.
Yeah,
one of those Jeffs.
Yeah. And so, what does he say about this?
They're happy to have me. They're happy to have my support. I mean, just the road trip kicked off a month ago, and I've already raised a little over $7,000. Spoke at the Gainesville Sunrise Rotary Club this morning, and just that club ended up donating $345.
Yeah, so that's just terrific.
That's enough for over one surgery.
So again, we're not quite finished, but let me say it again: www.smiletrek, TREK, one word, .org, smiletrek.org to donate.
You can make a donation, absolutely. You can follow our progress across the country, my progress across Southeast Asia, and 100% of the donations actually go to the charity. As far as living expenses, I'm covered with savings from Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you should check it out.
It is really pretty cool. So what are you going to do when you come back?
I don't know, maybe grad school?
Grad school.
Grad school.
Everybody
in grad school.
What does the theater major do?
Goes to grad school. Not for theater.
Would you come to UF? We have a lot of good grad schools.
I would. You guys want to give me some money? I still have some GI money left over.
Everybody gets money these days. As part of Obama DemoCare, they took over all the college loans.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all government money, baby. There.
Oh, cool.
Everybody, Obama's stash. No problem for money at all.
Okay, well, I will have to take advantage of that then.
Yeah, actually, for all my joking around, I think it's probably good. We're funding people who otherwise could not go to college. We're also funding people who should not go to college, and that's a societal issue right up there along with should charity be the role of government or should charity be the role of individuals? And
very interesting.
Yeah, it's a real...
Sounds like a whole other can of worms.
Well, I would tell you this. I teach in a school that's 60% minorities, 80% women, a lot of single parents, and I love it. I have an impact. And one of the reasons I do the show is I got angry, is the right term, at what I saw had been done over the last half century to my students, who are wonderful people for the most part, trying to crawl up out of the mud of government programs where they've been abused and disabused of their value as a human being, and they're terrific people. And so I understand this. Where I'm going with all this is this. There's some of them are really good students. Others would be really good carpenters, plumbers, auto mechanics, and what have you. And we're going to turn them into terrible convenience store managers. And that's a problem.
Well, maybe we can start a Smile Trek Scholarship Foundation.
All right, so what do we got, a minute, James, plus or minus? What do you want to say? What do you want to leave us with, Winston?
Honestly, my final thoughts would just be, you can get all of the information about the project at smiletrek.org. Check it out for yourself. You can read up on how the project came to be. And I've been trying to maintain a blog and that sort of thing. And it should be a good time to follow the whole thing over the course of a year. So
Yeah, what a fabulous young man. I love it. I love it when people do what they say they're going to do rather than becoming one more sheeple. You know what a sheeple is?
I don't know what a sheeple is.
A sheeple. Bah. Which way do I go? Bah. Maybe Aunt Mary, you want to be in sales? Oh, maybe Aunt Mary can get you a job down at the county. You know, bah. Gotcha. Sheeple.
Not for me.
Not for you. Thank you for coming, Winston. It's been a terrific half hour. Thank you for putting up with James and myself. And thank everybody, all of you out there, for listening to the Thomas Hayes Morrison Show. Stay tuned for Ed and Jake, Talk of the Town. Do something today. Join the resistance. Take back your government and your country. I know you can do it. And as 9-year-old Taylor Green said, I hope you jump in rain puddles. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock right here on the Star 99.5.
Your home for Gainesville's best talkers, latest news. WBXY, La Crosse, Gainesville. The Star 99.5.